our stronghold, all prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double.
Hello dear listeners. Welcome to your channel. This is the summary for Sabbath School Lesson 9 for the fourth quarter of the year 2025. Thank you for liking this video and sharing it with your friends and acquaintances. The title of this lesson is Heirs of Promises, Prisoners of Hope. The memory text is found in the book of Zechariah chapter 9 verse 12. Return to your stronghold, O prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double. At the end of this lesson, you will hear the song related to this verse. Dear listeners, this lesson focuses on the idea that God's promises are real and concrete, and while He offers them as gifts, His people must respond in faith. The Promised Land becomes a symbol of God's intention to restore what humanity lost in Eden. It represents hope, identity, rest, justice, and the future new earth. Zechariah 9 verse 12 reminds us that even in difficult circumstances, we remain prisoners of hope because God promises restoration and blessing. In the book of Joshua chapter 13 to 21 contains detailed lists of territorial boundaries showing that God's promises were specific and tangible. God gave Israel land as a literal inheritance, not a symbolic idea. Yet they still needed to act, settle, and occupy what God had provided. Just as salvation is a gift requiring faith and cooperation, the land was given by grace, but Israel had responsibilities in possessing it. Sunday Lesson: Eden and Canaan. Genesis 2 and 3 show that humanity's first home, Eden, was lost because of sin. It was a place of abundance, beauty, and closeness with God. When Adam and Eve broke trust with God, they were expelled from their living space. Canaan becomes a symbolic echo of Eden, representing restored blessing. The patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, received promises of land but never owned it fully. They lived as pilgrims, trusting God's word. Today, believers also live as heirs of promises, awaiting the complete fulfillment of God's plan. Like them, we inherit better promises through Christ, and these are received through faith and patience. Monday Lesson: The land as a gift. Israel's identity was tied closely to dwelling in the land. Land provided stability and freedom, but Israel received it as a gift from God, not as a permanent right. They could remain in it only while in covenant relationship with Him. The land also reminded them that God was their provider. In Egypt, they depended on irrigation. In Canaan, they depended on God's rain. God remained the ultimate owner of the land, and humans were merely guests. This idea extends to all people today. We live on God's earth as sojourners. 1 Peter 2 verse 11 and Hebrews 11 describe believers as strangers looking forward to a heavenly city, shaping how we view life, possessions, and hope. Tuesday Lesson: The challenge of the land. Though God gave Canaan as a gift, occupying it came with challenges. Israel had little military expertise after years of slavery, and even Egypt had never fully conquered Canaan's fortified cities. The Egyptians never conquered Canaan completely because of the impregnability of the walled cities. Now a nation of former slaves is told to conquer a land that their former masters were unable to subdue. If they are ever to possess the land, it will be through God's grace alone, not through their own effort. Joshua 13 describes how land was divided and what remained unconquered. God had given the land, but Israel had to respond and settle it. This mirrors salvation today. We cannot earn it, but we must cooperate with God, live responsibly, and continue the journey of sanctification. Wednesday Lesson: The Jubilee. Leviticus 25 introduces the sabbatical year and the Jubilee. These systems ensured that land remained equally accessible and prevented wealth from becoming concentrated among a small upper class. Land could not be permanently sold. It could only be leased until the Jubilee. This protected families from generational poverty. The sabbatical year allowed the land to rest and provided food for the poor. The Jubilee restored land, freed slaves, and offered fresh beginnings. These laws reflect God's heart for justice, mercy, and equality. They show that land ownership was meant to bless, not to oppress. Israel's neglect of these principles eventually led to their exile. Today, Sabbath principles still remind believers that all people are equal before God and that we should resist cycles of consumerism, greed, and exploitation. Thursday lesson. The land restored. During the Babylonian exile, Israel experienced what it meant to be without land. Yet God promised restoration to those who repented. Prophets like Jeremiah and Ezekiel assured the people that God would bring them back. However, the promises of land were always conditional on obedience. Prophets also pointed to a greater restoration through a future Davidic king fulfilled in Jesus Christ. In the New Testament, the promised land becomes a symbol of spiritual blessings and the future new earth. The final and complete fulfillment of God's land promises is the new earth where sin is destroyed forever. John 14, Titus 2, and Revelation 21 assure us that Jesus will return, and through his death, we are guaranteed an eternal home in God's renewed creation. Friday lesson. Final thoughts. Ellen White emphasizes that Israel could enter the land only through obedience and active faith. The same applies today. Knowledge of the promises is not enough. They must be applied personally. The new earth is described as a place of beauty, rest, and joy, where God's people will finally be home after centuries of wandering. Dear listeners, the abundant land represents the abundant life Christ offers: spiritual blessings, peace, hope, and joy. Citizenship influences lifestyle. Being citizens of God's kingdom demands kingdom behavior, justice, mercy, obedience, and generosity. God's promises can be trusted because history shows his faithfulness, even when human promises fail. The promise of the new earth becomes real now when we live with eternal priorities, practice Sabbath rest, and walk with Christ daily. God bless you.
Return to your stronghold, O prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double. Return to your stronghold, O prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double. Zechariah 9 verse 12. Return to your stronghold, O prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double. Return to your stronghold, O prisoners of hope. Today I declare that I will restore to you double.